Hello, Ruby here. If you are new to this channel, I am a professional psychic medium, a tarot reader, archetypal astrologer, big lover of tarot and oracle cards. And this video is partially a request from one of you. One of you asked me how I cleanse my cards between readings. And as I was thinking about how to answer that question, I thought it would be best answered with just a general video about spiritual hygiene for divination work. I honestly think it's irresponsible that I haven't made this video yet as a professional reader, because it is so important that we are talking about spiritual cleansing and spiritual hygiene if we are talking about working with the medium of tarot and oracle cards, because tarot and oracle, these aren't just pretty images, these aren't just mirrors into our subconscious. Working with tarot is really working with a portal to spirit communication. And while we don't need to be scared of this portal, it's important that we treat it seriously and respectfully, and we put the proper precautions in place so that we are only connecting in with what we desire to connect in with. So first and foremost, if you are a tarot reader or you are somebody that is using cards as a medium for divination, you should be setting intentions before you draw cards, and you should be doing regular clearing and protection work. So I'm just going to go through and tell you all the things that I do, some of the mistakes that I make, and I encourage you to make your spiritual hygiene and cleansing practice your own. So the first thing that I do when I get a new deck is I cleanse it with sacred smoke. I have the Mariel Tarot here in my hands. This is the deck that's just closest by on my reading table. So this is the deck that I will be using as an example. And the preferred sacred smoke that I like to use is resin. It's the most ethical for me to use as a white person who isn't a part of a particular indigenous group. And I feel that frankincense in particular is the resin that I feel has the most clearing and amplifying energy to it. So this is one of the little vessels that I use, and then I have this on one of my altars, like on one of my working altars. I have this set up. This is a candle from Magic Fairy Candles, like that it burned down, and then I cleared out the inside, and now I'm using it for my charcoal discs. And so what I do is I take my charcoal disc and I light it until it starts going off, and sometimes that takes a minute. So see how it's going off? And then I will add some frankincense, and you can use copal. I will use myrrh if I'm like doing an offering to Isis. I have other blends that I either buy or make. This is some dragon's blood that I'm gonna put on. As I'm doing this, I'm just kind of setting like a mental intention. Even if I'm not saying it, I'm putting my mental energy into like, may this clear, may this banish, etc., etc. I also grab this little vanishing incense to kind of show you what a blend, like a protective blend would look like. And then when I first get a deck, I am every card, every single image, I'm running over the sacred smoke. Okay, so at least in the very beginning, that's how you'll want to clear your deck, or how I encourage you to clear your deck, is a card at a time. Let's say I just woke up this morning and I want to do a daily draw, and I haven't cleansed this deck in a minute. You know, I don't always cleanse my deck with sacred smoke each time I use it, but I make it a very regular practice. I will probably just put the whole deck in the sacred smoke. Okay. Now, once in a while, if I'm really feeling like a deck needs to be cleared, I will do what I did at the very beginning, and I'm just moving this incense this way, and I will clear card by card. It's just intuitively, you'll know when you need to do that. And so that's how I clear the deck's energy. So, you know, because I also do client work with most of my decks, it's extra important that I'm clearing my decks regularly. But even just for, you know, you might come into a reading with, you know, a lot on your mind, a lot of heaviness, and decks will hold on to that. So you want to make sure that you are regularly cleansing your decks. If there's any guides that you like to work with, if there's any, you know, energy of the highest light, truth, compassion that you like to call in for your readings, call in that energy when you are cleansing your deck. Another thing that I do is, you know, I work at a shop. I work at Magic Fairy Candles. I'm the full-time reader there in Longmont, Colorado. And when I'm there, I'm reading for several people at a time. And a regularly smoke cleansing is not something that's available for me to do between readings all the time. And I prefer not to do that. Like, I don't want the room to be so smoked up that people feel uncomfortable being in there. People have all sorts of different sensitivities. So how I cleanse my decks or how I cleanse, you know, just in general between readings, my decks and myself, is I use Florida water. Let me grab it. So I have one of these on my reading table at home. I have one of these at my reading table at Magic Fairy Candles. Let's say I just wrapped up a reading with somebody. What I do is I put some Florida water in my hand, and I will just do this over the deck. And you'll feel it. There's alcohol in the Florida water, so you'll kind of feel it tingle on your hands. And I will just let that permeate the energy field of the deck. And oftentimes when I do this, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, I will say something to the effect of, I now disconnect from blank, the name of the person I'm reading for. I now connect from Charlie and everyone or anything that they are connected to. So that's cleansing. Another thing that I will do is, before I use a deck, you know, if I don't have time or I don't feel I need to cleanse with sacred smoke or cleanse with Florida water, I will knock on the deck 5 times. I will also blow on the deck. And when I'm knocking on the deck and when I'm blowing on the deck, I'm setting the intention of, may this deck be cleared. You know, may this deck connect in with the guides of the highest light, truth, and compassion. So that's clearing. Clear whenever you feel you need to clear. Something I have realized as a practitioner and a professional on this path is you can never do too much clearing. You don't need to get obsessive or weird about it, okay? But transference is very real and it's very unavoidable. As much as I would love to tell you that's not the case, even if you're not a professional, you know, if you're a sensitive person, if you're just an empathic person walking through the world and you're open, you will experience transference. And when you're coming into a reading, you want to make sure that the only thing that you are reading is yourself and your guides and the situation at hand, not somebody's something that you picked up on earlier in the day. So something that you might want to do is to cleanse yourself before you give yourself a reading. And for that, you could use the sacred smoke method I just showed you. You can use Florida water. You know, I also do have, you know, this is Palo Santo. This is ethically sourced sage. But I work with these particular medicines and herbal allies very sparingly and very respectfully. And some practitioners will tell you that it's not appropriate for a white person to be using at all. So if you want to be safe, use frankincense. Frankincense, to my knowledge, is not appropriative in any way. And when I'm using these, I am thanking them, I'm thanking the spirits, and I'm offering a prayer of gratitude. I'm doing it as mindfully as possible. And, you know, I encourage you to come into a way of practicing ethically that is well researched and also in alignment with your own truth. Part of the left-hand path is not always doing what everyone else is telling you is right or ethical, but it's important that you do your research and you consult your guides. Okay? And that you're never doing anything blindly. Don't even do anything I tell you blindly, okay? Unless it's like your spirit will let you know what's truth for you and what's not truth for you. So something else that I also do always before I read for clients, and many times before I read for myself, though not always, is I do an invocation. And I am going to tell you word for word the invocation that I use for clients. If you are one of my clients, you know this invocation. But I ask that if you use this, that you, for yourself, that you're crediting me and you're not taking it as your own. Otherwise, like, that's on you. Because this is something that came from my guides for me, for my readings with my clients. And it won't be as powerful if you just copy the words that I'm using, right? Your guides might want you to use your own language and your own words. But before every reading, I will say, I now connect in with the person who I'm reading for. So I now connect in with Charlie. Let's say the person I'm reading for, that's their name. I now connect in with Charlie. I connect in with Charlie's higher self, their guides, their angels, their healed and whole ancestors. And then I will say, and any other beings of the highest light, truth, and compassion that wish to come in and assist in this reading. Then I will say, may this reading be for the highest good of all. May it bring harm to none. May we receive all the insight, wisdom, guidance we need, and more. And may we surround this reading in protective golden light. And I never do a reading for a client, a divinatory reading, like a tarot reading or a psychic mediumship reading, without saying those words. What that does is it protects the reading space. It seals the reading space, because you never know what someone's walking in with and what is attached to who is walking into the room. And even if you're just reading for your friends, you never know what's there. And it's protecting the reading space, and then also being very clear about who we are receiving guidance from. And then it also gives me permission to say whatever is coming through to be said, because I know we have set the intention that it is only going to be for the highest good. Because sometimes I'm reading in for other people, and sometimes I'm reading into people's relationships or to circumstances in my life, or the material can be really dark or even ethically tricky. Like, should I tell this person that this other person in their life is being dishonest in a certain way? And so by saying that before every reading, by letting that be the intention, I know that what is coming through is okay for me to share ethically. And that's why I don't always need to really do it for myself. But still, before I read, I always set the intention of I now connect in with my guides. And I will always do some little type of protection and cleansing before I read for myself, even if it is, just setting some frankincense and just setting the intention that the space be cleared. Because like I said, this is a very powerful tool. This is not just a fun little thing to collect or something that just shows you yourself. This is a portal into the spirit world. And if you aren't intentional about how you use this tool, you might connect in with something you don't want to connect to, okay? So let me make sure that I have told you everything I want to tell you. We talked about clearing our deck in the beginning. We talked about clearing our deck regularly. I showed you some methods of how I clear my deck. I have a ton of crystals on my reading table. I have a friend that told me that she has a crystal that she has for each of her decks that goes with the deck. So you can do other little things to make sure that your deck is staying charged and energetically clean between uses. I prefer for people not to touch my decks, and they do. And it's one thing if I know the person, I'm showing them the deck. But sometimes people will just come in and they'll touch my cards. Or somebody will come in and they'll want to see a deck before they purchase it, if I'm at the shop. And I prefer that it not happen, but sometimes I let it happen. I try not to be a control freak about it. And, just because someone touches your deck doesn't mean it's tainted forever, but you are allowed to have your own boundaries with that. Okay? And then, you know, I shared with you that mistake that I make regularly. And the mistake I make regularly is I'll get done reading for the day and I don't close my channel. And then I get home, or 3 days later, my health problems are flaring up, because one of the ways my psychic mediumship works is I feel it in my body. Like the other day, I had a client's friend who was going through some severe health issues, and they had me read for the person. And before they told me the severe health issues, I was feeling them in my body, asking them, what's this, what's this, what's this? So particularly for how my channel works, if I'm not closing my channel, I'm gonna be feeling it. I'm gonna be feeling it. And I still have a video to make for you all about spiritual and psychic burnout. I think it might have to be a whole series. I just think I might do a whole series like what the actual reality of being a psychic is in the world, because I have not heard a lot of psychics talk about that online. Conversations I have with my psychic friends behind closed doors. But I think it's important to share the reality of this work and what it entails, the good and the bad. Because, you know, the light and the shadow, the challenges and the blessings. So, like I said, if I don't close the channel and I'm walking around, I'll start to really feel it. And so if you start doing this work more regularly and you're always drained, close your channel. And that can be as simple as, I now close my channel. It is now only my energy. I ask, you know, that I am no longer tuned in, that whatever words that you want to say. And sometimes for me, it's I now disconnect from everyone I read today, all of their energies. I cut any cords between any clients that were made. You know, I only allow my energy in my field, disconnecting from anyone or anything they might have been attached to. And use whatever language is most intuitive and authentic for you. So that's pretty much it. Nothing to be scared of, but definitely something to bring awareness to. And I highly encourage you to practice regular spiritual hygiene in your life if you are on this path. And if you have any questions about this topic specifically, please leave them in the comments. I will answer them to the best of my ability. And I love you, and I'm wishing you well.